See, this is how like dedicated Brenden is, you know.
Well, wait a second.
He watched that game. He watched that full game last night.
Cam goes, "Did you watch the game last night?" I was like, "Well,
you watched the entire game."
No.
It goes further than that.
He watched the entire game and then did an hour and a half post game YouTube
on YouTube
live feed.
I said it was going to be a quick one. It would be a tight show. We're going to get this over and done with. And then an hour and 15 minutes later, I was still sitting there. I was like, "All right, we're gonna wrap things up
then
now."
He gets here and that's dedication.
Hey,
man,
you better put the soundproof foam so your wife and kid can sleep.
Yeah, you know, I'm in the basement down there, so I don't know. I think we're okay on the sound. She does it; she'll sleep through anything. So I think she's
That's nice.
I think it's good. The young one is sleeping through the night. Knock on wood, pretty good lately. So. Yeah, I'm not too worried about that. I would like to get like a garage studio though. Like if I won the lottery today, I'd be like, we have like an extra room in the garage that we would need to sort of renovate and
well, at least you have that.
Put air
at least you have a
conditioning in.
setup.
That's like my dream is to like set that up.
Do
that
it
way.
step little by little. You know what I mean?
By the way, I knew that Kevin Slayton was trying to get Danny Cox on his show yesterday. He did end up getting him. So if you want to check out the King's Court with Kevin Slayton on your podcast as well, he did an entire 2-hour show about Whitey, including a flashback interview that he had with Whitey back in the day.
Dude, our lineup probably talked. Yeah, man. A lot of people, I'm sure, are listening to all that. I bet you they had their phone on all day on 590, man, just hearing stories about Whitey.
I bet.
We got a damn good lineup. Got a damn good lineup besides us.
Yeah.
In the morning.
Well, a show, you know.
Like, hey, somebody
they
may
got dumber.
Somebody may have died. We can't really say.
God,
We don't know if we can
I don't
say.
think I couldn't
We're
go back.
pathetic.
I can't go back and listen to it. I'd get the secondhand embarrassment.
Oh,
We're
dude.
pathetic. It is what it. Good thing we got these guys behind us, man, that come in after us, and they're the real professionals.
We're the opener.
We entertain.
We need one
come
strong
on.
inning out of us.
You might learn something with
One
weather and
strong
stuff.
inning.
God
That's all we
almighty.
need.
And Frank comes in and probably has this a great.
Well, you know, it
2
would
hour
help
show.
though too if you had like. Isn't there another guy that's supposed to be on this show sometimes? And sometimes he's here.
No, he was here too.
I've heard
he's
his
the one that said
name.
don't talk about it.
Oh, was he? That's
Yeah.
funny. Well, we can ask him about it. I guess he is going to grace us with his presence at some point today. So
He and Tuna.
I can't wait to finally be here when Charlie's here, so I can look him in the face and go, "Hey, man, been a while.
Been a while.
You gonna make some time for us?
It's
you
been
gonna...
a while since I last saw you. I bet you Tuna knows Whitey pretty well too.
Oh, I'm sure.
Tuna knows everybody.
Yeah. He's
You know?
he's been around the block. I'm sure that
I
he's.
bet you he hung out with Whitey.
Back in the day, Tuna used to go to Busch Stadium, go to press conferences.
Yeah, dude. I bet you he hung out with
He used to
Whitey.
like work and stuff, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So what was the premise of your post-game YouTube chat?
Well, we talked about the game itself. We did discuss Whitey.
It's
It's
okay.
got to be a lot more than just the game. It's got to be like the state of the state or something like that.
It's always, but it's every day some of these times, so it can get a little bit, it can get redundant at times. But no, you're talking about, really, I think right now what people are wondering about is like, okay, really cool, Lance Lynn pitching well, that's
Pretty
on
well.
the heels of Sonny Gray pitching well.
Yep.
They win a couple of games. They can't score more than 3 runs. How long is that going to be okay? Like they're back to 500. That's cool. But if they're not able to get the offense going,
Yeah, dude.
you know, right now you're kind of getting away with it because the pitching has been as good as it's been, and guys in the bullpen are largely pitching pretty well too. So they're winning a couple games right now, and they're okay as far as the record. I know they're in last place, but everybody in the division's it'll level out.
Totally.
It's still pretty early on that front. But I think that's the question. Like if you look at guys like Goldie, people are worried about Goldie because he's still
Is he
kinda,
number one worry?
I think so because he's got that track record, and we saw a bit of a decline for him last year. And he's older. Like Arenado is early 30s. Goldie's kind of getting there mid 30s,
Yeah,
mid
he's
to late
upper
30s. I think
30s.
he's 36, turning 37 in September. But I think that's a guy where people are like, okay, he had the down year last year. Is that just an aberration, or is that just kind of the natural progression of getting a little older and skills decline a little bit, and just some of the swings that he takes, people see and go, oh man, like it doesn't really even look like he's close to being on these at times. So because of the way that the roster was built around him and Arenado, I think fans know they need those two guys to go in order for it to be the way that you want it to be. And Arenado's coming around. He's starting to pull the ball again. I think that's a good sign. Goldie's the one where it's like, you're just
Does he
kind of
look
waiting
bad
to
at the
see
plate?
it. Sometimes, but sometimes it's just not catching up to fastballs, and sometimes it's it just doesn't look like Goldie. And so the numbers are what the numbers are. It is still only, 18 games into the season.
18 games, man.
It is, but at the same time, there was a
big
decline.
chunk.
He was the MVP in 2022. Yeah. He was unbelievable. And last year, a little decline, but still pretty good numbers. But to even get back to that point, he's got a pretty wide gap compared to what the numbers are now.
So Goldie number one.
Goldie
What's the number two concern? Jordan Walker?
I was going to ask, what do you think, Cole? Jordan Walker might be the answer.
It's not the pitching.
It's not the pitching.
It's not.
Palante, maybe they could
get mad about Palante.
But that's okay. He'll even out, too.
He's been kind
Jordan
of
Walker.
Terrible.
Jordan Walker would be probably the answer there. But at the same time, he had a good swing last night. They almost like an homage to Whitey. They played some Whitey ball last night. They did the little things. They played good defense.
They had a stolen base. They don't get those this year.
No, and they sacrificed flies, ground ball, just productive outs to score runs, and it ended up being enough in a 3-2 win.
Well, they gave you a gift.
Well, yeah,
the A's gave you a gift.
They did.
Just like the Marlins gave you a gift.
They gave you 2 extra bases on a sac fly, which led to another.
They threw to nobody.
No cutoff.
No cutoff, man. They just threw it home.
That's not Whitey
bounces.
Ball. That's not Whitey ball.
That's not Whitey ball.
It is not.
Those bad teams give you gifts.
Yeah,
you know
you got to take them.
I think the A's. Last I checked, which was last week, but they are far and away number one in errors. Far and away.
Well, the Marlins had 4 in a row when they played them a week ago, whatever it was. You're like, oh god. But they were really bad. Masyn Winn had a nice play, but then he threw it too hard. I guess Goldie couldn't reach out and get it.
Yeah, and then it goes into the camera well, and so that ended up being one of the 2 runs not the Marlins, but the Oakland Athletics scored last night because it advanced the runner to second and gave up a base hit later in the inning. But I was asked about that on YouTube last night, where it's do you want Masyn Winn to pocket that ball sometimes, or do you like the fact that he is so exciting and he can make plays that other people can't make? Kind of try to find your way through that as a young player.
Yeah, make that play.
He's
dude.
Like these young pitchers just wanted to throw it 100 miles an hour. He's got to throw his arm out.
I think. Well, he's got to dive. He's got to dive and make a great catch just to be able to get to the ball, and then he has to try and get up and make the. What I said was I like that he's 22 years old. He's trying to make these plays, kind of feeling his way through. The more he does that, and sometimes it won't go right, I think the more he'll recognize on future situations, hey, this is one that I maybe pocket versus, no, this is a play that I think I can make. And the more you kind of get integrated with that, the more I think Masyn Winn's going to be able to come up with more and more of those types of plays.
That would have been an out, though, if he just would have. I mean, he threw it way off base, but it wasn't that far off. Goldie probably could have got it.
Yeah.
So you not try on that? Pocket it, meaning I'm not going to throw.
No, yeah, if you think I'm going to have to rush this throw so much that it won't be accurate and it could cost us an extra base, I think it depends on the time and the score and the situation of the game. And in that part of the game, it was early. The Cardinals, I think you like it even more if the Cardinals had scored a bunch of runs and they're up and you say, yeah, take your chance, take a risk. But it was a low-scoring game at the time, but even still, if you guys can't score runs against the Athletics,
come on, exactly.
But, so I don't mind it at all. Masyn Winn trying to make the dazzling play. I think that's why
you're there.
He'll make some of them. He won't make some of them, but I think he'll learn from the ones he doesn't make.
And then Lancey was in a little bit of jam. I think it was bases loaded. And then Victor Scott was out in center field, and he made a
Victor made that big catch. I think it was the first moment he came into the game.
Yeah,
is what it was, because he was a defensive replacement, and he was there, and he shot. It's so fun to watch him doing things well and thriving and succeeding. You want to see more from him at the plate, and that's going to be something they'll have to sort of make a decision on at some point. Do you move Nootbaar to center and maybe get some more offense in the lineup, because they're trying every day to find a way to get the Herrera kid in there because he's played so well.
Yeah, got to be in the lineup.
But I think the only real way to do that while still getting Donovan in there and Walker and everybody in there at the same time would maybe be to have Donovan in left and Nootbaar in center. But they have to this point been reluctant to do so. But between Victor and Michael Ciani, who started in center field last night, those guys just aren't hitting much. And will there come a point where the team goes, we need to try to prioritize offense a little bit because we're not getting enough done? I think right now, because you're winning these games, your pitching is helping you do that it's easy to kind of justify and say, no, we'll stick with the plan of defense first and continue to play clean baseball. But if they start to lose some of these games and the offense is the thing that you blame, I wonder if then they sort of begin to look at Victor a little bit differently.
Besides the pitching, what other bright spots are there? How's Gorman?
He's kind of struggling a little bit too right now. He had a couple games where he was looking good, but the OPS has dipped for him too. Herrera is a bright spot. Wilson Contreras continues to do well. I think Donovan's done a really nice job as the leadoff
Charlie's
guy.
favorite player, Cole.
Yes, he is.
He's one of my favorite players. He does everything well. He does it right. He plays hard. He's actually, and maybe you can credit a little bit of this to Victor Scott from earlier in the year when he scored a bunch of runs, even though he wasn't getting on base that often. Donovan has, I think, the team lead in RBIs from the leadoff spot, which is not something that you normally see. But Victor, when he did get on base, he was either stealing a base or advancing on a bunt or whatever, and so Donovan probably drove him in a few times. But yeah, Donovan, he's a bright spot. They've got, I would say, close to half the lineup you're feeling good about. I think you can even look at the at-bats Arenado is taking anymore and feel pretty good about where he's at. It's funny how just a handful of games can change that. You don't think so, Cole?
Any concern about the lack of power, though?
Well, yes and no. He did hit the home run in Arizona. He needs more frequency on that, I'll agree. But when he's starting to pull the ball the way that he has done over the past handful of games, I feel like you can project the power is going to begin to matriculate in there a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think highly of Nolan Arenado, and I know that last year was a bit of a
Arenado.
Nolan
It is Arenado. Cam is spot on with that.
Yeah, baby, what's up with you?
We did some of that last night.
Gotcha. Yeah, I got you.
Last night we did that a little bit too on the YouTube Live, just player pronunciations.
That's
because
right.
they've got the. Do you know the kid from Netherlands that came over in the trade? You know who I'm talking about? Sem. You know how to say his last name?
I thought it was Sem Robert.
It's not.
Oh, come on,
It's
Cole.
not. Now, in fairness, Mozeliak said...
It's not Robbers.
It's Robersa.
Robersa?
Yeah. Robersa.
Robusta?
Robersa.
I liked Robert better, to be honest with you.
That's kind of hardcore. I don't know.
Sem Robersa?
Robersa. So anyway, we were doing some pronunciations.
Wasn't there another
only
one who
really
had a tough
interesting
name?
crap on YouTube Live. That's the
nothing
kind
but the
of
best.
stuff. That's the kind of stuff you get.
What about Tommy Edman? Where is he?
Well, he's slowly but surely making his way through rehab, and I think for both him and Dylan Carlson, if I had to guess, you don't see either of them in April because it's the kind of thing where he's going to swing off a tee today, and they're still really taking it easy, and especially with Edman because he had so many setbacks where you don't want to. If you have to start from ground zero again, that's all right, that's another month that you figure you're going to shut him down for a fourth time or whatever it's been, and then have to ramp back up. They're going to take it nice and slow. So for me, if you see him before mid-May, you're going, all right, that's a good timeline to be able to get him back. That's just kind of my gentle speculation based on kind of what I've known about the processes so far. But I think they're taking it slow with both guys, which does mean hey, there's an opportunity still for Victor Scott for a little while. But if he's not hitting, will they eventually
What do they do
curtail
with
the
him?
playing
What do
time?
they do with him when he's not hitting? Are they just before games? They're just working on his stance and what do they do with him?
Well, I mean, think about this. You played professional hockey. When you're struggling, are you trying to get in there and do every little thing to mechanically try to work on this, work on that to get
Pucks off the wall, pucks off the wall,
Yeah.
pucks off the wall every single damn day.
Cam puts on boxing gloves and goes to a punching bag when he's struggling.
Well, I do that. Well, that's another part. If I gotta, I'm still training here and there I do my bands and stuff like that for punching power, but the on ice stuff, man. Rim up the wall. You got a guy coming down the wall. I got to kick it to the center. I got to do this. I got to kick it with my feet. I got to do that every single day. So is that what he's doing?
Well, I'm just wondering if there's some times where you're like, oh man, it's going so poorly, and maybe baseball's different, but you're like, yes, you want to continue to do your work, but is there an element of you can do too much to where you overthink it? I don't know exactly what it is with Victor and the way that they're handling it, but. He hasn't played AAA. It was a jump from AA to the big leagues, and you're seeing that sort of play out with him. And there was an at-bat last night that he took after coming in as a defensive replacement where the pitcher said, I'm just going to feed him off-speed, breaking balls below the zone, and I think he swung and missed at all three of them. And so there are some of those at-bats where he does look overmatched, but there are also times where he fights and he grits it out and he delivers a productive out or hits
I would
the ball.
say, though, as an athlete.
Oh, wow, you just rights-holdered that thing.
Oh, no.
By a productive out, I mean he's had several sacrifice fly RBIs.
Yeah.
That those are... I don't necessarily buy into the productive out when it's just advancing a base runner. I guess it ends up working out if you score that run later on. But he's had at bats where but no, I'm not gonna put lipstick on the. He's struggled. I mean, he's got a sub 100 batting average, and some of the at bats really don't look good. But that's also kind of to be expected. And he came to play defense. I said before the season, anything he gives you offensively is a bonus, and they're sure testing the hell out of that right now because he's struggling offensively. But he's largely giving you defensively what you wanted.
But if you're struggling that bad, man, I think the best way to approach that would be to work on your craft more.
Oh, and I'm not implying.
I wouldn't be like, I'm just going to take today off because maybe I'm overthinking it. No,
I'm not
you're
implying that he's not doing. I'm sure that is what he is doing.
Just curious.
But they're on the road, and we haven't seen him in a week or so.
When the Cardinals or any MLB team go to Oakland, are they just like, oh, God? Because the locker room's got to suck. I see the guys, like even Jimmy had a picture of all the A's players like sitting on coolers and stuff. Like the dugout looks like crap. Everything looks like crap. They must be like, this is depressing as hell.
The broadcasters probably hate it the most.
Probably. I bet you it's dumpy as hell up there, too.
Numerous issues. The broadcasters having to literally stare at a pole that's like blocking their view.
Yeah, I saw some of those seats, too.
They had to go to a different broadcast booth because a possum was living in the main
cute.
The main away broadcast booth.
I think it was a dead possum by that point, so it was the smell.
Oh.
You could just... Ugh. Yeah, they had to move because the booth had a dead possum in the wall or something like that.
Don't worry, they're going to Sacramento. It's a lovely place.
Is it lovely? I don't know. Never been there.
I would say no.
Not fun?
I would say it's one of the worst cities in
California.
California.
Why would you say that?
Because I'm sarcastic as hell. Sacramento's supposed to be kind of like hardcore.
Hardcore.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting to...
Gangster, hillbilly, a little bit of everything.
I don't know what to make of this.
Sacramento. What's their stadium look like they're going to be in for the next
It's a minor league stadium.
They're the Coyotes.
It's attracting more fans than the actual A's games right now, is what I saw.
Really?
Yeah.
God, that must
Oh, wait,
suck.
No. That would be the A's AAA affiliate.
Imagine you're just a superstar stud and the A's draft you, and you're like, oh, damn it. And you might not be ready for another 2 or 3 years, but what if you are ready? And you're like, I got to get called up to this disaster, and now we got to go play in a minor league. It just sucks. Just same with the Coyotes situation.
You could do what Kyler Murray said and say, I'm going to go play football.
He made the right choice.
Yeah, I would. I don't know.
Kyler Murray was a first-round draft pick by the A's.
Has any baseball player pulled the Eli Manning?
I don't think that they really have. Now, yes, J.D. Drew did back in the day. That was like a really famous thing that happened. Boris, I think, was the agent, if I'm not mistaken on that. But yeah, J.D. Drew, there was a whole thing where he was like the big time top prospect and didn't want to get drafted by a certain team. I don't remember how that ended up playing out. I think it may have been that he just entered into the draft the next year, and the Cardinals ended up getting him.
So he just opted out.
He was drafted second overall by the Phillies.
That's
in
right.
'97, and then was drafted 5th overall by the Cardinals in '98.
Yeah, but the Phillies, though.
Well,
maybe they were terrible.
I don't remember all the circumstances. I mean, I was 3 years old. I don't remember all the circumstances, but that was the first example that came to my mind of somebody going, yeah, I don't really want to, I want to dictate kind of what. I think it was a signing bonus thing for him mostly, though. The Phillies just didn't want to give the signing bonus that he felt he was worthy of, and so I'd have to look
if I'm an agent, though, and my
that.
stud client is knowing to get drafted by the A's,
now,
I might have to put my foot down on that.
But here's the thing, and I hate to say it, but what's going to happen is if and when they get into the Vegas stadium, which Vegas is like, we're not paying for your stadium. Like, taxpayers are like, we don't want to.
Yeah, win.
So I don't know what's going on there, if they're going to get that approved or not. Everything just seems like, we just assume that this is going to be, but Vegas residents are like, we don't want nothing to do with this. We don't want to. Not again. We're not paying for another stadium, so we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, what's probably going to happen is just like with Stan Kroenke and the Rams,
best owner in sports.
Once they move them, then you start to invest. Then you start to actually try to field a competitive team.
Now, if I'm a player and I'm a young kid and I'm a stud and I'm going to Vegas, I'm like, okay.
So it's
oh my gosh, yes.
Okay.
It's going to be kind of like it was when the Rams left St. Louis, and then they get to LA and it's so new and fresh, and we're spending money and we're trying to win.
Like the night.
John Fisher is going to do the exact same thing Kroenke did once they're actually heading to Vegas. Until then, they're going to have a low payroll and they're going to skimp and save money. But it's going to be the same thing, and that's going to be kind of disgusting because they could have done it here. That's why I hate Stan Kroenke, because if he really wanted to have fielded a competitive team that I rooted for, he could have done it.
Yeah, but I'd rather be in L.A.
But screw you.
I'm just saying, money-wise.
Listen,
who's your favorite Rams player growing up?
Tuna is already going to come into the studio later on. I don't need you to be. You to be doing that too, because that's a sore subject for me. So
sore subject for a lot of people still. I
love the Rams, dude. I was
cool.
A die-hard. Every Sunday I would let it ruin my day because they sucked. But I was so into it, man.
I remember exactly where I was when they won the Super Bowl, too, man. I was at a party in Eureka. A high school party in Eureka.
Look at you.
A really poor party in Eureka, too, by the way. And I remember it. The Rams in 99, man.
Stan, my man.
I can't do it.
It's so funny. Oh, you're going to have to listen to Tuna then.
No, I'm sure
he's going to bring it up.
What are the odds that it'll come up because he has to talk about the same 5 topics every? What are the odds that he would bring that up and when he's in here later today?
Oh, he'll bring it up.
I love Tuna. I just tease. I love Tuna.
This ain't no damn baseball town. It's a football town.
J.D. Drew and the Phillies fans would have liked oil and
could you
water.
imagine?
Would have been like oil and water.
Could you imagine? Yeah, J.D. Drew had a reputation that maybe how would I describe it? Like he was kind of soft, like he didn't love baseball enough to care about it. I think that was kind of a mischaracterization in a lot of ways. He was always injured, and people had the presentation that he wouldn't play through injuries. Tony La Russa would kind of throw him under the bus a little bit. Say, "Oh, JD's he's got an ouchie. He's got a little ouchie. He can't play." And he would kind of demean him in that way, subtle ways. And so he kind of got this reputation. He was my favorite player as a kid, JD Drew. But Cardinals eventually traded him. Wainwright came over in the JD Drew trade, and the rest is history.
When your coach says
and
ouchie,
Jason Marquis,
your coach says an ouchie, that means he's belittling you.
Belittled the crap out of JD Drew.
But was there some truth to that?
So I think he was this is my opinion, and I don't know if Cardinals fans anymore agree with it. If you look at JD Drew's numbers, it doesn't match what I think a lot of Cardinals fans have in their mind about what he was as a player. His numbers are ridiculously good, and I think Cardinals fans kind of view him like they view Colby Rasmus, and it's just not the same. And I think there was some element of J.D. Drew was just so naturally good, he made it look easy, and so there was sometimes the interpretation that he wasn't giving full effort or trying when it was just his play style.
Like, what does that mean, though? Effort and trying. Like, he pulled a Tyler O'Neill, kind of coasted through second and third.
It kind of looked that way at times, but it wasn't like he was dogging it, but he just didn't have the reputation for somebody that was like a Brendan Donovan that I'm just going to do anything it takes to win. He didn't have that reputation, and I don't know how much of that was really narrative and how much of that was stuff that played out, or how much of that was people here in TLR talk about him and kind of plant the seeds a little bit of that he was not this guy who cared about what he was doing, and he's got an ouchie, he's got to sit out, that sort of thing. Tyler O'Neill is maybe a decent comp because I think that reputation sort of established with him as well in the recent years, where down in Tampa, those couple of games last year when Tyler O'Neill was in the lineup and then he was scratched because he wasn't sure how his knee was going to respond to the turf.
Yeah,
that might be a decent enough comp when it comes to. But there's also times for O'Neill, he's busting his ass and you could tell that he's getting after it. So, but I think in some ways maybe that's a decent comp for those unfamiliar with kind of the way that JD Drew was viewed back in the day. I loved him though. Wore number 7, had my picture with him.
He had the look too, didn't he?
I don't know. He was my dude, and then he was always kind of injured. So when I got my picture taken with him as a kid, he had a cast on.
Oh, really?
Because he was always hurt. But I thought he was great.
Who's a better manager, Whitey or TLR?
That's a 855-282-8255.
Yeah,
you're gonna. Different eras, but and then TLR obviously managed for a long time too. I don't know. I think they were both great in their own ways, and they did things their own way.
Whitey ball and then analytics kind of it's kind of a little bit different.
I don't know. La Russa was an old school manager too. I would to borrow a phrase from him, I'd say tied for first because I kind of feel like they're both. But they're both of that.
Did
ilk.
TLR kind of throw in some analytics? Like kind of start that before anybody else did, or am I wrong on that?
I don't know that would be how I would describe it. Not maybe analytics the way we think about it and know of it today, but he was. Or the bullpen. bullpen usage, I think he did a pretty good job of bullpen usage back in his day. But it's also funny because I can remember reactions to La Russa and the way that we felt about him when it wasn't going as well.
Yeah.
And people would they would talk about him like there wasn't maybe Twitter as much back then, but they would talk about him the way that people talk about Ollie now. And I know that's people don't believe that, but I remember it. Like, no matter who the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals is at a given time, that guy is going to catch so much flack. He can be a Hall of Famer like Tony La Russa, and the sentiment from some, the diehards that live it every day, and then he does something stupid, and you're mad about it.
Well, what about Matheny? Matheny was loved in this town when he played. Am I wrong on that?
He was loved when he played.
When he played,
I think that's right.
I mean, my Nana, love that man, and just what he did behind the bench or behind home plate. As a catcher, he was tough. And then
tough as nails.
Tougher
dude.
nails. Gets hit by
to be a
right
catcher.
in the jaw. He spits out the blood like, "What's up?"
Yeah, that's a tough look.
He was loved.
That
right?
goes hard. Yeah.
But then you're a manager, and things don't go right, and he kind of lost that reputation a bit, right?
Well, I think
Actually,
so.
He lost
did.
it big time.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, and now I think it's nice that he comes back around the team and does some Cardinals events from time to time and
Always
stuff
good to
because
me,
he's
man.
a good dude.
He's always good to me.
But it's I think the perception was that he was a little in over his head with that being his first big time coaching job, and he goes right to big league manager, and so there was a lot of things that he probably didn't know at the time, and I think even it didn't work out with him managing the Royals either, but I think he probably had a better handle there than he did in St. Louis just because you learn things
Damn right.
from doing the job. So
even Hall of Famers, even Craig Berube to even Joe Quenneville to all those guys, man. Joe Quenneville learned a lot, like obviously with what happened with Chicago. I mean, I'm not even I'm just talking about the game aspect. Like even guys at that age have been through that are winners. They need to keep up, man. They need to keep up. You have to change something basically every single year. There's something you have to tweak as a coach every year because the game and the players change.